Hello and welcome to Profiles in Risk. This is your host, Tony Cañas, and today I have with me Tanner Hackett, CEO of Counterpart. Tanner, thank you for joining me today. How's it going?
It's great to be here, Tony. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. And we are recording on August 16th. I am in Atlanta, Georgia, where it's very hot, and you're in LA, right?
Yep, Venice Beach to be more
Venice.
precise.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay, so when I think LA, the first thing I think, other than traffic, is Twister. Back in the 90s, the movie Twister starts with the weatherman in LA completely like ignoring his job. And he's either playing video games or hooking up or something. I don't remember. But anyway, somebody's asking him like, aren't you worried that something happens? And he says, it was in San Diego, and he says, I'm the weatherman in San Diego. Like nothing ever happens, and then there's a twister. So Venice Beach, if I'm not mistaken, Venice Beach is the one that has the gyms right by the water, right where like the meatheads go work out on the beach. And last time I visited LA, they also had the like the doctor's offices every like 50 yards selling the marijuana cards for like $40. I don't know if that's still the case now that it's basically legal. Um,
It's definitely not as exciting anymore, as exciting as it used to be,
uh,
but it's eclectic. Yeah, you have um, every interest from surfing to Muscle Beach to great food to the one thing that is, as you mentioned, is always predictable, great weather. So enjoying some nice 75-degree weather out here.
okay, fantastic. Awesome. So we always give the guest the chance of giving the elevator pitch. So what is Counterpart?
Yeah, Counterpart is an AI-driven management liability company. So we focus on your suite of management liability products, including directors and officers, employment practices, fiduciary on a primary and excess basis. We're constantly launching new products with the support of our two A-rated carriers. So we're an MGU, meaning that we're backed by carriers that have experience in the space. Markel was the first one to see the opportunity for us back in 2020. We launched with them, and then Aspen joined in the beginning of this year, supporting with expanding our appetite, and then the new products we've been bringing to market. We're also backed by some pretty prestigious venture capital and private equity firms in Silicon Valley and New York and Chicago that have seen this opportunity to double click on lines that they're often overlooked. These are lines that are required really only by contract in a lot of instances. It's not mandated by law that you purchase management liability insurance, but it's top of mind for everybody given the litigious nature of our society and the social inflation that we're seeing and these claims and lawsuits related to let's see, everything from negligence to misrepresentations, wrongful termination, discrimination, harassment. It's the really sticky stuff that as an investor, as a manager, as a vendor, you want to make sure you have proper coverage with, because this could be game ending for a small business.
Okay, so I'm a CPCU, and I have 9 other designations, but I do not have my RPLU, and I've never worked in the management liability side. So this is one of those areas of insurance where I am not much of an expert at all. So very interesting. So my perception of the management liability side, number one, it's very specialty, and number two, like most specialty areas of insurance, historically, it's been even more conservative and even more manual than PNC, right? Than home and auto, where there's a ton of competition. So was that the case with management liability before you guys came around?
Absolutely. I think you nailed it. And you certainly have more credentials than I had coming into this business. So I should share a little bit about my background.
Absolutely.
So I'm an entrepreneur by trade. I have built some large companies, a large e-commerce company in Southeast Asia that was bought by Alibaba. I built another large marketing tech company in New York, and it was only 3 years ago that I began to unpack this opportunity in insurance. And so I can talk about that a little bit more, but
Mm-hmm.
specific to your question, in these specialty lines, I actually see this as one of the largest opportunities because yes, in terms of competition, it's very traditional. It's a space that while it's big, you look at the TAM for a general liability. The general liability is 10x the size of a management liability product. So it's often overlooked in terms of how you can build efficiencies both in workflows and underwriting claims. Like every pocket of this insurance system has yet to really evolve to the expectations of the consumer. Whereas you can go online and purchase an auto policy, or you can go online and purchase a BOP. Management liability is something that it can take weeks to get a quote back from an insurance carrier. So yeah, just the baseline, the starting point was the bar being pretty low in terms of where we thought we could innovate. But there's lots of nuance to our product that we bring based on my entrepreneurial experience in data and understanding how you build great user experiences, and that of the team that we've been able to assemble to tackle this issue.
Okay. So where when you came into the industry, weeks to get back a quote. So where are we now? So going through Counterpart, are we at the I can get a quote in 3 days kind of thing, or where
No. We're like instantaneous quotes.
okay.
So this is and I think so. It's instantaneous quotes for a risk that it does not trigger a review, and
Okay.
then a review. It's all about enabling an underwriter to review what is the instance, what is that exposure that kicked out the risk, and
Mm-hmm.
how do we underwrite to that in a really simple way. So creating workflows for that risk engineer so they can return a quote in hours. Like days that's not a thing anymore. It should never be a thing. Like there's urgency here, and it's top of mind also for these businesses. Oftentimes it can be interrupting a contract from getting through. Oftentimes it's something that people realize, but if they don't action upon immediately, there's a queue of things that entrepreneurs and business owners and brokers need to worry about. We got to make sure that we help them when there's urgency, and so that means being very responsive to their needs and understanding where this sits in their prioritization.
Okay, but it's only you guys only distribute through brokers. You don't distribute directly to consumer or directly to the
Correct.
okay.
Correct. Yeah, we partnered with the largest wholesale brokers in the country
Mm-hmm.
to make sure that this product is accessible. It being a specialty lines, a lot of it is distributed through the wholesale channel, and they've been very supportive of our program, helping to educate us on the needs of their customers, the small businesses that they serve, and we've been able to create some very very profitable and fast growing relationships with those brokers that have leaned into our services and our offering.
Okay. Uh, let's talk about brokers first. Okay, so I see on the website that you've got a broker platform. So tell me about the platform.
Yep. So we work with the largest wholesale brokers in the country. As I mentioned, they get appointed, which enables their agents or their brokers to get access. They just need to go to yourcounterpart.com, and they can sign up there. We give them credentials where they can log into the platform and submit their accounts digitally. So we have a digital application that can instantaneously send back a quote, and they can bind with just a few quick clicks. If they want to operate in the more traditional method, through a PDF application, we're open to that solution also. Just know that it can't be instantaneous because we need to digest the information and we need to send the quote back to them. So it can take a few hours for us to respond to an application that they can send through underwriting@yourcounterpart.com. So we're flexible. We understand that it's never one size fits all with our broker partners. We're trying to be flexible to their needs, and at the end of the day, we just want to make sure we get the best product in the hands of these our distribution partners, so these small businesses can get the support that they need.
Okay. Can any commercial lines broker sign up, or do you need to have a certain or are you only working with kind of the regional and larger brokers?
Yeah, so again, it's only wholesale brokers that we work with.
Oh, okay, sorry.
So yeah, so and we work with most of the large wholesale brokers, I think, and those that we currently don't work with, I think we're in the process of appointing. So wholesale brokers can get access. Retailers, retail agents, if they have a wholesale broker, I would. I think I can say with confidence that they'll have access to Counterpart,
Okay.
because most do, or they can simply ask
Yeah.
their broker to get them access to Counterpart,
cool,
because
cool.
we're offering very competitive quotes on management liability that we just want to make sure that they are fed through the wholesale channel, because the wholesale brokers understand the specialty line best.
It makes sense. So yeah, listener, if you are a retail broker and you want access to this, basically call your favorite wholesaler, and they either have access or they can get it easily. And
Yeah.
for the ones that are larger and or more modern, they can plug in via API. So that's pretty cool. Okay. I see that you also have some services. So the HR advisory, risk assessment, and claims management services. What are those about?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. As I mentioned before, I'm not from insurance. I didn't necessarily, set off on this journey to create the future of insurance. I was actually married to this idea, and you can tell from the name Counterpart, of an HR tech company. So Counterpart actually began as this platform where we were weaving together all these cutting edge services that helped with performance management, learning and development, with creating transparency and better collaboration. We called it the culture stack. And so this was where we leaned into realizing that there was an ROI from small businesses investing in these services. This has been proven out quantitatively, that when you have better transparency, when you have strong guidelines, strong business operations, strong compliance, you actually outperform your peers. And so unfortunately, what we found down that path was that, this is tough for small businesses to make that investment in HR. Like they see it as a support function. They don't see it as a growth function. So in talking to entrepreneurs and talking to some leaders in the Insurtech space, we realized that there's actually another avenue for us to approach here, which is, what about when things go really seriously wrong in a business? And that's when a lawsuit occurs. When you don't do these things, when you aren't compliant, when you aren't thinking about transparency, when you aren't thinking about your business processes and governance, well, there's a really terrible outcome, which is a claim which can be in the hundreds of thousands or even millions of dollars for a small business, and therefore bankrupt the company. So we actually pivoted and went through this avenue of, well, we can help make a better business better. We can help them be the best version of themselves. But let's first address these really negative externalities, where there's a lot of pressure on small businesses to deal with these external forces. I mean, think about what they've gone through in the last 2 years. They've gone through COVID, totally replatforming, thinking about how their business works, where people are working from, how do you support, how do you coach, how do you recruit? And then, everybody wakes up from COVID thinking, the sun's coming out, and then all of a sudden they deal with supply constraints. They're dealing with challenges with hiring and retaining talent. They're dealing with new regulation. So, we see this opportunity here to support them with the realities of where we are today in terms of the litigious environment and this changing landscape, and at the same time coach them over time to be better and better businesses, which you understand from your background. As you help to address these exposures, you're reducing the frequency and severity of the claims, and you're able to actually shift the curve on insurance. So lots of positive effects downstream if by being smarter about understanding the exposures of small businesses and being able to communicate and share with them these services. I think you're muted.
Makes sense. Makes perfect sense. I am really curious how you realized that this was a problem with an insurance. So looking at your LinkedIn, so you get your bachelor's, you get your MBA at ISA, a business school in Spain, and at Stern. So I'm guessing that was like half the program in Spain, half the program here in New York. And you go through one of the big consulting firms. And I'm guessing Button Incorporated was the one that you sold to Alibaba.
No, that was Lazada for Rocket Internet.
Okay, Rocket Internet. Okay.
Yeah.
So after two entrepreneurial plays, how did you end up realizing that this was a need within insurance?
So I mean, being a small business owner, every year, whenever you have a board, the board requires you to purchase D&O insurance. You know what that experience is like as a small business? It is, what the hell is D&O insurance? This is the first response of every business. What is this product? And you call up your broker, and the broker explains it to you. You pretend you understand what you're getting, but you don't really know. But you know that, holy smokes, I have a new bill for $10,000. And you don't understand the coverages. You just it's a check the box. But what they don't understand is this insurance is a lifesaver. This is a lifeline. And that as a business owner, while we think that we can control things, there are some things that are completely outside of our control, and we're human at the end of the day. And so I think of our insurance as human insurance. And I'm very fortunate to have worked at Button with some really, really strong entrepreneurs that understood how to build a great culture. And we invested in HR software and services and developing our team at a very early stage. So as I mentioned before, with Counterpart starting as a HR tech company, essentially I wanted to take what we did at Button and provide the service to all small businesses. I wanted to take that infrastructure and say, hey, I can put you on the happy path to deal with this really challenging operating environment. And then, but I ran into a few walls here with, hey, most small businesses, especially, they're not thinking about these things. They got a gun to their head just to perform. They got to hit their monthly targets. They're not thinking about how do I invest in my people and 24 months out, seeing an ROI. So it was really the avenue of insurance that opened up when I connected to folks like Evan Rosenberg, who was the former chief product officer for Management Liability over at Chubb. He just loved to throw cold water on me and tell me, this isn't how it's done. This is the way things operate in the insurance space. And me coming back to him with this persistent view that yes, this is the way it has been done, but this is not the way it should be done. There's a lot of value that is missing from this equation of small businesses from what they're getting, which is a 40-page piece of paper, to what they actually need, which is support, education, awareness, and then ultimately somebody that's going to stand behind the piece of paper. So we're crossing that gap from me being a small business owner and being like, great, 10K out the door, to understanding how I build a better business through a relationship with my insurance carrier, because insurance carriers have the data, right? We understand what causes a lawsuit. We understand the size of businesses and their exposures based on the industry and based on the geography. Where are these likely to come from? And how do you avoid stepping in that pothole? Because it's not just about paying a claim when a lawsuit happens. Like, that's something you don't want to deal with. But the chaos and the reputational risk for small businesses today, when they get hit with wrongful termination or wage and hour, that's really painful to recover from. So how do we help prevent that from occurring in the first place? So you referenced our services. Yeah, we offer things like risk assessments to small businesses, and this is when they get a quote. We help them walk them through what are the common exposures of a business of their nature and what's their risk profile. We offer a opportunity to talk to an HR expert when you're a policyholder. So you have any question that comes along about, you're dealing with a difficult employee and you need to terminate them, pause, take a deep breath, make sure you consult with an expert. You're a small business, you probably don't have an HR manager. So who do you go to? Well, we want you to come to us because, we're on the risk. You certainly don't want to deal with this mess of a lawsuit. So we want to be that resource for you.
I'm really curious. So is that Markel and Aspen offering that service, or is that offered at the Counterpart level?
Yeah. So as an MGU, we built our platform from ground up. Everything that is offered by Counterpart, from the underwriting technology to the data infrastructure to the insurance services, and now we're looking at claims management and how we can support there. This is stuff that we have designed in-house, and with the support from these carriers telling us what are the best practices that they've seen before. So we view it as this ecosystem that we want to shine a light on how it can be improved through data and better workflows and cutting edge technology, and then work with our carrier partners because they have decades of experience with seeing where claims come from and building guidelines that fit with their appetite.
Fantastic, absolutely fantastic. And I can't remember the last time I asked in one of these conversations about people's volunteering, but you've got two really interesting things listed. You've got brainfutures.org and openminded.org, and I took a quick look at both websites, and they look super interesting. So I am very curious, what are those organizations, and how did you become involved with them?
Yeah, on a personal note, mental health has affected my family directly. This has been a calling of mine for quite some time. It's also one of the reasons that I got into HR tech, because people are very complex beings, and when you put them in an environment where there's a tremendous amount of pressure, that complexity scales exponentially, right? So you take an individual, you have growth goals, and you have different influences, different stakeholder groups. And I see an opportunity here with businesses where they can be in an environment of growth and of support for their employees. And that's connecting the dots between this HR tech company where you can provide that environment, transparency, development, to provide them with the financial security in the first place of a company that is operating on a good path. And in doing so, I think those externalities of creating a great workplace, they filter into your daily life. So yeah, mental health has been a big focus of mine for quite a long time, and those are two avenues that I like to contribute to the cause. I think just human psychology in general is really fascinating, and when you think about it in the workplace, it becomes even more interesting. I don't know if you've seen this study by Google, Project Aristotle. Did you ever hear about this?
I don't believe so. Tell me about that.
So there was this very robust study performed by Google called Project Aristotle. And they were trying to identify what makes great performing teams. What are those teams that deliver consistently at their company? And you can think about how many thousands of engineers that are working, and how extensive this study was. Well, what they found was that the single thing, this above everything else, that mattered was trust. Across across these teams, and it was, they called it, more specifically, psychological safety. So it was an environment where people could communicate, and where people felt like they were supported. And so this is kind of the mantra of how we're building Counterpart. And don't get me wrong, it's not easy. It's not for everybody. This is what we're doing is really hard, but we try and provide an environment where folks who have been in the industry for decades, we have 95 years of underwriting experience on our team. These are folks that want to see change, and they have the confidence in themselves to enter into this fast-paced environment, knowing that we're going to do whatever we can to support them in their growth and success here.
Love it. I'm gonna have to read up on Project Aristotle. Just today, I was reading an article in the New York Times, an interactive article called "The Rise of the Worker Productivity Score," about how during the pandemic, many large companies have really dug into surveillance of their employees, and basically measuring to the second, to the keystroke, and penalizing, and even like it talks about specific examples of companies offering a higher by the hour pay, but your pay varies week by week depending on how much actual productive work you did. Like it's mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing stupid, right?
I would say that, yeah.
It's mind-blowingly stupid, and basically when you were talking about mental health and about remembering the human, you didn't use that term, but ultimately everything that we do gets done by humans, regardless of how many algorithms, how much technology, how much AI. There are humans in the mix, and we tend to think as humans, of humans as Homo economicus, right? Perfectly rational, perfectly informed, completely emotionless decision makers. And the reality is that humans are the exact opposite of that, right? So,
which is the beautiful part.
I agree completely. It is the beautiful part, and the organizations and the companies that manage to unlock that, that manage to give people a place where they can have that psychological safety, and where they can feel like they're making a difference, and feel like if they do their work, the company will do well, and they will do well, and they won't be downsized because the company got acquired, or right. The more that you can have aligned the company's interests with their interests and their psychology as humans, not as Homo economicus, which they are not, as faulty emotional humans that have issues at home, and that had a bad commute this morning, and right, that have other worries outside of work. The more that you can do that, the more that your people will perform for you.
I couldn't have said it better.
So
yeah. And it's the antithesis, though, of how traditional carrier works. That's the fascinating part. Yes. It's like the opposite of how traditional insurance works. So I spoke at a conference, digging conference, a few months ago, and I think I got the question of, there's a lot of carriers in the room today. Like, what's your advice to them about how they can innovate? And I said very pointedly, like, a lot of the people shouldn't be there. Like, a lot of the people, yeah. And the reality is the people that are there, that I was referring to are those that are trying to fight against change, fight against innovation, fight against unlocking this potential because it's scary. It's scary for them. Like they it's unknown. Insurance has been done a certain way for dozens of years. Why change it? It's not broken. But I told them point blank, I am here to break it. Like I am here to change this. I am here to challenge assumptions. And yeah, it's an inevitability. Like if I'm here, there's a bunch of people behind me that this is going to happen, and it's going to happen in very short order. So I challenged them and I said, hey, go talk to not the person that reports to you, but the person that reports to them that reports to them. Talk to people three layers down and see what they say, because I would guess that they have better ideas than the person that directly reports to you, because they've been doing it the same way for so long.
Mhm.
Go talk to somebody with a fresh lens.
So you've only been in insurance for 3 years. So, you're clearly bright, and you're clearly looking at this in a really cool way. I've been in insurance for 12 and a half years, and I've studied insurance like a giant nerd. And the conclusion that I've come to, and I hope that maybe this is helpful. The conclusion that I've come to is that the reason that insurance carriers are so painfully conservative and risk averse is because historically so Rob Galbraith in his book The End of Insurance as we know it talks about how full disclosure, published by Insurance Nerds. So if the listeners, if you go and buy it, I make like 2 cents off of it. So fair disclosure. So he talks about how out of the top 10 personal lines carriers, and who knows what it looks like on the management liability side, but the top 10 personal lines carriers in the States, the youngest is Allstate, and Allstate turned 80 the year that he wrote the book about 4 years ago, or 3 years ago, and this year in 2022, within a month of each other, State Farm and USAA both turned 100. Right, so they're you look at the rest of the Fortune 500, it turns over every like 18 years, and the insurers are the same. Exactly. So
yeah.
the thing is, over the last 100 years, many insurance companies got acquired or went out of business, and the ones that went out of business are the ones that underwrote too crazily, that underwrote not carefully enough, that underwrote not conservatively enough, right? So the lesson that the carriers learned is be conservative to survive. Okay.
Yeah.
So my life mission, and I dare say yours is similar, my life mission is to convince the carriers, okay, underwrite conservatively, that's fine, but everything else, HR, hiring, training, succession planning, IT, everything else, marketing, everything else, let's try new things. Keep underwriting conservative, right? Anything that doesn't endanger the balance sheet, let's try new ways to do it. Right?
I love that approach. I would take it one step further, which is when you think about underwriting conservatively, you have to reframe your thinking towards a world where there's a infinite amount of data available.
Yes.
And you are not constrained to a PDF application anymore.
Yes.
You need to be thinking about infrastructure and investments, because when they think about investments, it's a 5-year project that may or may not work. And by the time it's even ready, if it ever gets done, it's not useful anymore. It's already moved on.
Yeah.
So
I love that. Tanner, if you decide to write the book, when you decide to write the book on this topic, or on modernized underwriting for a world with unlimited data and unlimited computing power, Insurance Nerds would love to publish it. Just so you know.
I'll be in high esteem with Rob. I really respect Rob, so that's good company.
Have you met him?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Well,
okay.
we did a panel one time where
Okay,
he
perfect.
was
He's a
moderating. Yeah.
really, really awesome guy. Very good friend of mine. Really
Yeah.
awesome guy. Thank you for your time today. When this goes live, I will tag you on LinkedIn and I will tag the company. I look forward to see what you guys keep doing. I think I have had, 300 and some guests on this podcast. Now, I wasn't the host for all of them. The first 100 and some Lamparelli did. Carrie Ann Nadeau did, I don't know, 20 or 30. But I've done the last like 250, and I don't remember anyone else talking about management liability. So quite clearly, uh, either I have been avoiding management liability as a topic, and as a source of guests, or it's just being ignored by Insurtech for the most
It's
part.
being
So
it's being ignored. It's being ignored.
I'm glad that somebody
Uh,
is working on it, and it was great to have you on. Thank you.
yeah, thanks for having me. We'll have to revisit this a year from now, and I think the world's going to look a lot different because people are starting to take note, and I think specialty lines is the next shoe to fall. I think you look at like the sequencing here, starts in personal lines. There's been a lot of innovation there. That you're seeing carriers now adopt a lot of the practices. Now commercial lines more broadly, you're looking at GL, specialty lines. I think people are realizing the need here, and yeah, we're happy to shoot across the bow of some of the carriers and show them that this needs to be done better.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for your time.
Thanks for having me, Tony. Take care.